Hello, busy dads and busy people everywhere. We've had a brief hiatus, but I am very pleased to announce that we are back with another episode of the Busy Dad podcast. In today's episode, I talk with Jan, a practitioner out of Germany who I've been working with for some time now. I wanted to have Jan on the channel because he has really turned his life around, as you'll hear when he shares his story. Jan has been able to shed approaching 40 kilograms in body weight. He's gone from the worst shape of his life to the best shape of his life. It's an inspiring story, but more than that, Jan has a lot of knowledge to share about supplementation, about mitochondrial health, about using breath work for weight loss. And I think that you're going to learn a ton from hearing his story. You're also going to be very inspired to get a sense of what a person can do if they really put their mind to it. So, my friends, without further ado, here is my good friend, Jan.
Okay, Jan, welcome to the Busy Dad podcast, my friend.
Hello,
It
Max.
is fantastic to have you here, and I'm really confident that people listening are going to learn a hell of a lot from you. I certainly have. To begin, give people a sense of where you are right now as a practitioner of the Busy Dad program.
Yeah, as of this week, I made a big step forward. So, in the Navy SEALs, I was hitting the 100 for the past 3 or 4 weeks already, but my 6 count numbers didn't climb as high for the time being. So they were at like around 230, but this week I managed to jump to 240 reps in 20 minutes.
Yeah, so right now you're wearing that blue t-shirt, but the purple one is beckoning to you. And I'm told that you've already bought yourself a purple t-shirt and it's sitting in your closet. Is that right?
Yeah, it's washed and ironed in the drawer. Yeah.
Well, a huge step forward. And I mean, you're deep in the game. And when you're deep in the game as you are, these kind of 10 rep jumps happen very, very infrequently. Can you talk to people very briefly about what you did differently and why you think you were able to make that massive jump forward?
Yeah, why exactly? I cannot say. So I was always more comfortable with the Navy SEALs somehow. So they were always quicker in the higher numbers than the 6 counts. I don't know, maybe my legs are not as strong, or the oxygen burned by my legs is just more than what I take in Navy SEALs. So besides the burpee training, what I'm doing for the past half year, I'm right back in the endurance training as well. And so while the Navy SEALs numbers were rising faster, it always felt like the 6 counts should be there. And last weekend, I did a lot less of what I would normally do in endurance-wise. So I think I just had a breather there and was fresh for the Monday session in the 6 counts.
Yeah. So I've been watching as you've been smashing PRs in a triathlon setting and training very hard, training with Aikido as well on top of your Busy Dad training, but kind of plateauing. And it's really interesting that you took 3 days pretty much off. And it was like you then allowed that new capacity that you've built to really show itself in your burpee training. And it's super exciting that we are now knocking on the door of level 3. This is an amazing place to be. And to bring out how impressive it is in your own case, I thought it would be really helpful for you to tell people the kind of story, your training story, because you weren't always walking around smashing out level 3 numbers, doing triathlons. You've built your relationship with physical training. You've built your relationship with nutrition, with supplementation. You've educated yourself a ton, and you've really, really changed your body and your life in the process. I think it's an inspiring story. I think you've built a ton of very valuable knowledge in the process. And so I really want to give you a platform to share that story. So Jan, if you could, give us a sense of where you started from in your training journey. You can go back as far in time as you think is helpful.
Yeah, so yeah, we have to go back to my teens. So me now being 46 as it is. So already when I was 14, I was like 86 kilograms, which was quite massive. And already then I started reading up on nutrition as it was available at the time, and started weightlifting. So I was a gym rat in my teens, and also I started Thai boxing when I was about 16. So yeah, I was really fit, I think, until I was 22 or something. Yeah, then training wise, it slacked a little bit for 2-3 years, but also put on a little bit of weight, but came back strong. Went into running first, so I did a couple of half marathons and marathons.
Before we get there, I just so you're 86 kilograms at 14 years old, and you've told me this before. And what's funny is, I was pretty out of shape at that age too. I had a lot of puppy fat. I mean, I don't think I was that heavy, but a difference between us is that it never occurred to me to educate myself about training or about nutrition at that age. I just kind of hoped and prayed that one day it would fall off. And to some extent, it naturally did for me. I was lucky. But I want to know those early interventions that you made, training, trying to learn a little bit about nutrition, reading whatever magazines and books you were reading, back then. Did it work? Were you able to shed some of that weight? Where were you kind of at the end of your teens?
Yeah, it worked plenty good. So I went from 86 to about 72 kilograms within, I don't know, a couple of months, half a year maybe.
Wow.
So it was a really great time training.
Clearly, your 14-year-old body did not want to be 86 kilograms. You don't lose 14 kilograms in a month later in life, or in 6 months. But clearly, your body just didn't want to be there.
Yeah, it was like things were falling into place.
Okay, so you'd completely change your physique. You'd build a relationship with training. So you might think that you were set for life at that point, that you would just be in good shape for the rest of your life. But that's not quite how it works. So let's fast forward. You're about 20 years old. You've started martial art training. What happens next?
Yeah, so I believe in the beginning of my 20s, the sports took a step back for a while. I don't know, maybe 2-3 years, but like I said, so I came back and took up running, more or less seriously as an amateur, and did I think 3 marathons and a couple of half marathons at the time. And then from 2009, I joined my triathlon club and did a couple of triathlons, so sprint distance triathlons and Olympic distance triathlons until 2013-14, pretty much. Yeah, and then my first son was born, family life got hold of me, professional life also had a huge hold over me. So being a seaman.
Right. So 2013, just so that we can all put timestamps on this story. You've got some experience in triathlon training, you've done your long distance running, and you're still around the sort of body composition that you were going into your 20s? Or where's your kind of body weight at around now?
Today?
No, 2013.
86 kilograms.
Okay. So still a pretty decent adult man shape. Okay, and then the blizzard of parenthood plus your professional commitments. I think it's worth talking a little bit about your profession to begin with. Maybe start there, and then we can talk about how parenthood impacted your health and your training.
Yeah.
So yeah, please.
I'm a ship mechanic. by training, and so that's what I trained for. And I have worked in the shipping industry and in deep sea fishing for the past 15 years, pretty much. And yeah, that means that I'm at sea for 2 or 4 or 6 months at times. Yeah, with only work to distract me from the daily training. Yeah, and yeah, what else?
Well, I briefly wanted to share with people, when I first met Jan, we started working together. He was at sea. And my pitch for burpees has always been, all you need is the ground under your feet and you can train. But of course, I was assuming that the ground under your feet is not moving. And we had a really hard time being able to do the burpees. Talk to us about what it's like being a burpee practitioner when you're in a deep sea fishing vessel and you're at sea.
Yeah, so when I started burpee training, that was, yeah, when was it? Was it 2 years ago that we met?
About a year, I think, actually.
Yeah. I believe I started about 2 years ago, so we didn't start our training immediately. Yeah, and so I was at the time quite overweight. First, I never completely lost the sport as it is, so I always was doing some push-ups or squats. But yeah, eventually I found the video of you explaining Navy SEAL burpees. And I don't know, something fascinated me about it, and I watched it a couple of times, and I thought I have to give it a try. And yeah, started with some small numbers. I think in the beginning it was like 38 Navy SEALs for what I did, and I kept doing them for, I don't know, I think every other day. So one day I do burpees. I think at the time I only did Navy SEALs, no 6 counts. And the other day I would do squats and
And okay, look, let's pivot to fatherhood. Okay, so we've got some real challenges training you on the boat. I remember G-force and having to do sets of 10 a day because it was too choppy at sea. But you made that work. But that's 10 years out from where we are in our story. So it's 2013, parenthood hits. What happens next?
Yeah, I was pretty much confined to the bridge after 2015. So always nailed to my watch chair and staring at monitors. And yeah, I always have a tracker with me. So that's from my triathlon time. I always wore a sports watch, and at some point I realized that there were days when I just had 1,400 steps only per day, and yeah, my weight was up, my blood pressure was not in the recommended area anymore, and yeah, I knew I had to start working on that. And
so where did your weight get to at your heaviest?
Oh, I think at my worst I was like 126 kilograms.
126 kilos. So in pounds, 2.2 pounds to a kilo. That's plenty heavy. Where are you now?
And now I'm back at, for the past half year, I'd say 88 kilograms.
So you've lost nearly 40 kilograms since that time. And what about blood pressure? You said that the readings were far too high. How are you doing these days on that front?
Yeah, so I just had an appointment with my doctor like 4 weeks ago, and all my blood work is actually very good for the past 2 years. So everything was already in the right range again for the past 2 years, but the blood pressure was still kind of an issue. It was nowhere near as high as it was in between. But yeah, so since the last appointment, we now try to just fade out all the medication. So at the moment, I'm
okay. So and right now you're medication free.
yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so listen, people, if you're listening, Jan went from 126 kilograms down to 88. He went from high blood pressure and medication down to excellent blood pressure readings and no medication. We need to know how he did it. We need to know what we can learn. So 2 questions. The first question is, what prompted you to make changes? And then the second question is, what were the changes you started with?
Yeah, so I think my highest weight I had right around 2018 maybe. So that's when I realized that I really have to do something, and I tried pushing more along the lines again of doing some push-ups and squats, so concentrating on that. But yeah, eventually I focused on the steps. So as I said, I realized that there were just not enough steps just to keep busy. If you're just 12 hours sitting in a chair, you know, they say sitting is the new smoking. And yeah, so actually I also stopped smoking for good in 2018 as well. And yeah, from there, slowly, you could say I started recovering.
Beautiful.
And,
I think it's really worth just emphasizing this point that if you're listening to this story and you're where Jan was back in 2018, it's possible that you're going through YouTube and you're getting overwhelmed by information and you're thinking, should I do this training methodology, that one? And there is this paralysis by analysis where you can just read and watch but not do anything. But there's always something you can do. And just, for example, taking your daily step count from 1,000 up to around 7,000 is a totally manageable move for most of us, and it's incredibly powerful. Okay, so I guess we can distinguish the input side and the output side. Output-wise, you started walking more, and gradually there was this snowballing of building more and more training in. But I want to hear about the changes you made on the input side. So first of all, you stopped smoking in 2018. That's amazing, very important. I'm also an ex-smoker. What else did you do?
yeah, well, at work, I do listen to a lot of audiobooks, and yeah, basically all I listen to is educational or instructional books. Most, I'd say 80% is. And so besides walking, I think the next big step in the right direction was to focus on breathing. So you can burn calories and sweat it out and pee it out or whatever, but actually the most burning process is being exhaled through your lungs. So, and to do that, I found a book by James Nestor. It's called Breath, and yeah. So from that book, I got that tip to focus on nasal breathing. And I'm still doing that. So whenever there's nothing else to say, I just close my mouth and through my nose. And I was when I was so heavy, I was snoring. It was a big issue, really. Also with my wife, she was not happy at times, and that's completely gone. It's just completely gone. And I have to say nowadays, so I also tried in my sports. So when I do an easy run, nowadays I'm doing them with my mouth closed completely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huffing and puffing when I go on the full effort, but on easy runs I try also to keep my mouth closed. And
So just that's fascinating. So I heard Nestor speaking years ago, and that really inspired me to try and move over to nasal breathing. I think to some extent I already was doing that, and it's something I emphasize a little bit. But I'd never heard the idea that there's benefit to nasal breathing from a fat loss perspective or from a calorie burning perspective. That's fascinating.
yeah, it is, and most people don't see the connection, but the amount of oxygen that is carried to your muscles is directly dependent on how much CO2 is there. So it will also only change CO2 for oxygen if there is enough CO2. But if you're only breathing through your mouth, you're exhaling too much CO2. So the levels for the optimum change rate is not there. So, and that's how that you can reach by breathing through your nose.
Wow. Okay. So fascinating. So it's 2018, you said, I'm going to start walking more. I'm going to stop smoking. And I guess connected to the stopping smoking, I'm going to really kind of invest in my lungs, and I'm going to take breathing more seriously as a practice. Take on a practitioner's mindset to breathing itself. You start focusing on nasal breathing. Already super helpful to people. What else did you do? Let's talk more about diet, what you're putting into your body, supplementation, alcohol. What are the changes you made there?
Yeah, just a moment. And actually, I had a doctor's examination for my lungs, so I needed for my job, and they found that my lung volume at the moment is about 5.3 liters. So that's not too bad for mid-40s.
For an ex-smoker, yeah, for a mid-40s ex-smoker. That's fantastic. That's so cool. Okay, so yeah, so tell us about some other changes you made.
So yeah, together with the sports and some more reading, I don't know. I think the next interesting book that that I found is Outlive by Peter Attia, and that pointed me into the right direction of longevity, and I'm focusing a lot of my training towards VO2 max, and I don't know. We spoke about that a couple of times too. You're still refusing to measure your VO2 max, but so that's one of the lines I'm pushing along, and then I also found one very interesting book about mitochondria by Lee No, and so that got me started on supplementing. So I try to feed my body the necessary ingredients to make the burning process quite optimal.
For people who are listening who haven't heard of mitochondria, can you give us a very brief, user-friendly explanation of what mitochondria are?
I don't know.
I've heard it described as the powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah, it is, you have quite a few of them in every cell, and it's a million of chemical processes happening there all the time, and but in order for them to work properly, they need certain certain things. For example, L-Carnitin is one of them. CoQ10 is also one of them. D-Ribose is something that they need in the process, and that's all used to yeah, build ATP and to give your cells the capacity to burn carbs, fats, water, whatever. Yeah.
So the breathing practice, you're helping get the CO2 levels right so that you're able to oxygenate your muscles better. And then the supplementation practice is designed to boost mitochondrial health. Would you say that's roughly? It's so cool that you lost all this weight, and yet the front of your mind wasn't weight loss. The front of your mind was like fixing your body and making it work properly again. And then the weight loss sounds like it was a kind of a byproduct of doing this deep work on the way the whole system was functioning. Would you say that kind of captured your philosophy?
Yes, for sure. And also, I'm not one to count calories. I've never done that. The way I work at the moment is I only think, is it food or is it not food? Yeah, and so I just look for natural ingredients, usually of the highest quality that is possible to find, and then I just eat as much as I want. And my weight toppled from that high state to what it is now at 88 kilograms, and I just feel great. So
okay, so we've got the nutritional philosophy is very simple. Is it food? I love that. If it's food and I'm hungry, I'll eat it, and if it's not food, I won't eat it, whether I'm hungry or not. We can perhaps talk a little bit more about how you define the difference between food and non-food, but I think a lot of people listening will intuitively understand what you're saying. If it's a frozen pizza that you found in the supermarket shelf, you probably don't want to eat it. If it's some organic kale or grass-fed beef, that's food. I know that you have issues around eating meat, so perhaps we can talk on that at some point, but I think that people will understand where you're coming from there. I think it's a really, really effective way of posing the question to yourself. You and I have another thing in common, aside from being ex-smokers, we are ex-drinkers. When did you quit alcohol and why?
Yeah, so for the past 15 years, I can say that I did not drink for 6 to 8 months per year anyway, because on the vessel it's a no alcohol policy at all, which does not say that I didn't drink in those years. I probably drank too much on too many occasions, but I'm completely kicked alcohol out of my shelves about 3.5 years ago. That's also when I decided to go low carb. Yeah. So so I didn't drink for 6 to 8 months per year anyway. So that changed not so much for me in the run of the year. So because most of the time I wasn't drinking anyway. What was actually harder to do was to kick the carbs. That was really hard, but that was also the moment when the weight really started to come off.
So before you kicked carbs, it sounds like you were already a long way on this health journey. But where was your weight before you massively restricted your carbohydrate intake?
I think maybe between 110 and 115. So.
Okay, so it had shifted, but not in a particularly dramatic way.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what happened after you changed your diet towards a more ketogenic diet?
Yeah, the weight came off and stayed off. And, I don't look back. So it's now it's sometimes not so easy to go out for eating, but when I'm at home, I'm cooking every day anyway, so not a big challenge.
Well, maybe we can briefly discuss the supplements that you found to be most effective people listening might consider introducing it into their daily routine or into a training context. And we can also, well, let's start there and then see how much time we have. Why don't you just, if there are any supplements that you think people listening to this probably won't have heard of, but should really consider starting to take, what would your recommendations be? Let's say your top 3.
My top 3. My list is a little bit longer, but
okay, let's have a top 5. How about that?
Yeah. So I don't know. I think my number 1 and 2 are NMN, so nicotinamide mononucleotide, which is a form of B vitamin, also to help the cells burn energy. And the second one is TMG, trimethylglycin, which is also used in the same process. So they both help each other out. Then I would say NAC. So just to help the glutathione production in the body, so antioxidants. And so that's 3. And then I'd say glycine and taurine, probably. Yeah. So
and are these you're taking each of these supplements daily?
Yeah. So NMN is the first thing I do every morning. So when I started that, I really felt a lot of more energy. So especially in the first 2-3 weeks, I was just feeling renewed energy. It's just every day. It's the same. I do it, but I haven't tested in a long time now. How it is to go 1 week without. Maybe I should do that again sometime, but I think it helps. Yeah, and so yeah, I also take collagen and whey protein together with creatine. So I think you do the same.
I don't take whey protein, but or collagen actually. No, I just use creatine.
Oh, you just the creatine, yeah, okay. And yeah, and also I wouldn't want to go without the D-Ribose. So
talk to us about, because I've heard you really swear by this. You're always, every time we meet, you're telling me I should try D-Ribose. What is it, and how, and why do you think it's so effective?
Yeah, so I read about it in this book on mitochondria, and I tried it out, I think, for the first time 2 years ago. I had a shorter run around the Christmas time in my area here, and it was a difference like night and day. So I was fit, I was well trained, but the perceived effort of this run was, I don't know, 20% less of what I expected it to be. And I've tested it time and again, and for endurance sports, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I can attest to it helping a lot. And
well, listen, my friend,
it's not a doping substance. It's not on the doping list. So
right. Okay, good to know. What I'm going to ask you to do is to send me a whole list of these supplements plus the books you've recommended, and I'm going to put them in the show notes, because what I want to say to people is I've known Jan for a year, and of all of the people I work with, there are maybe 2 or 3, Jan included, whose approach to nutrition is just unshakable. For me, there are a lot of my guys, I've got some principles, they work for me most of the time, but there are always periods where I kind of lose focus. I have to find my way back to good living. And I've never once seen Jan, for a split second, deviate from the path he's on. And what that suggests is that he has done deep work on his mindset. He's gone very, very deep, and he's done a lot of reflection, and clearly these materials have helped him to do that. And so I want people listening, and I will do the same, to read these books, to experiment with these supplements, and to see if we can achieve the level of conviction that Jan has been able to found and has been able to kind of implement in his life. Jan, it looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, actually, so there's one point I think where the not drinking alcohol anymore is important, and that's consistency. So because I think that's really one of the points where I think I could get weak. So if I'm hungover and I don't know, maybe I'd order that pizza. I think at the moment I still think I wouldn't, but it's very easy to do when you're hungover.
There is no doubt in my mind that alcohol is hostile to every element of these practices that you've built and that I'm building. You put alcohol into the mix and the whole structure weakens. And conversely, you take out alcohol out of the mix and the whole structure just naturally strengthens. I think, to be hardline about it, alcohol has no place in the life that we are trying to carve out through our practices. So I quite agree with you there that one of the many ways in which alcohol can compromise you is you can slip back into bad habits on a hangover day. One of the very many ways in which alcohol can compromise us. All right, Jan, listen, we're at time, but I'm really grateful to you for sharing all of this knowledge. It is an inspiring story. What I think really sticks with me is the fact that instead of focusing on weight loss, you focused on kind of system design, and the weight loss just fell off as a byproduct of a well-functioning system. I think that's really, really cool. There's a lesson there. Thank you, my friend, for sharing. Let's have you back on the podcast when you're deep into level 3. By then, you'll probably have read a ton more books and have a ton more supplements to recommend us. And I'm sure that the community will be very receptive. So Jan, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Max. Thanks for having me, and I will send you those lists and you can just clip them on.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.